This is the third episode of the Illegal Use of Hands to the Face Football podcast. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing great, Hayden. How are you?
Tremendous. We somehow accidentally managed to get another weekend of football in watching wise, and I wasn't ready for it.
Neither was I. I am very, very happy that I came across that TikTok that uh, told me about the FCF.
The FCF will keep us alive for, what, 6 weeks?
Yeah, 6 week season, so we got 5 more weeks of it.
Oh, amazing. Now I think all that they need to figure out is how to get the guys that are playing the non-quarterback positions to catch the ball, and then they'll have a good product, right?
That was a huge problem. Johnny Manziel probably could have thrown 400, 500 yards on a 50-yard field if all those guys would have caught the ball for him.
Yeah, if he completes every pass for a maximum of 49 yards and he threw 5 passes in the game, then yeah, I think 500 yards is attainable.
Wasn't he something along the lines of 3 for 8 for 40 yards or something?
No. 1 for 5.
1 for 5
for 11 yards.
Mm,
He ran the ball I don't know how many times he ran the ball. He ran the ball for somewhere between 60 and 80 yards and a touchdown.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he had the other touchdown he was on the field for was like a jet sweep.
Yeah.
That you were part of the calling process in.
Oh, yes, I was. My team, the Zappers. Here we go, Zappers. And I mean, as Manziel said, it doesn't matter if we lose because they're going to booze anyways, so that's good.
Pretty sure I saw the FCF respond to a comment saying that they will be putting that on t-shirts eventually, so I might have to buy one of those.
That's amazing. Man, we're going to talk about rules today and rule changes, but yeah, didn't we see a taunting flag in the game at one point, in one of the games at one point?
Yes, during the man up, I believe it was the corner picked up the flag and waved it in front of the receiver's face because he pushed off.
Yeah.
So
come on, if there's anything that league should have, it's no taunting penalties at all.
I 100% agree. There should be no taunting penalties. There should be no excessive celebration. I doubt there will be, though. I mean, they have the Wendy's hot mic where you can go in there and eat a cheeseburger and flex in front of the camera like the NFL players were in primetime games and in the playoffs.
I think it would be even funnier if the players on the teams getting killed and the players on the losing team went in there and just confessed all their grievances against their team.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with you just standing by it. Johnny was doing that last night or the other night. He was just standing by it, went in, gave a little thumbs up, said hi, Mom.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, well, I think 3.5 minutes is enough time for FCF talk.
Yeah. It's going to be fun, though. There's going to be more FCF talk in the future.
Oh, yeah. Let's hope that the hype doesn't die down too quickly.
It only grew in views on Twitch on Saturday night.
Yeah. Hopefully it has a long life cycle, and it's not just another one of the replaced football leagues after a year.
Yeah.
I mean, XFL though, coming soon. Again.
One more year.
Volume 3.
No. Yeah, one more year. 2022.
I have no idea. Probably. I don't think it's this year. Yeah. Well, all right. Here, you want to get into some topics for today?
Sure.
Well, I said talk about Taylor Heineke, but I can't remember how much we gave Taylor Heineke a pretty good amount of time on Friday night, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We gave him a lot of time. He was almost all of the football team talk.
Yeah, well, he's a god, and if he plays as well as he did in the playoffs, go football team, 16-0. That's all we got to say, right?
Yep, rightfully earned extension. That's about it.
Yep. All right. J.J. Watt, where do you want to see him go? Not where do you want to see him go, because you want to see him on the Bills, obviously, but where do you think he'll go?
Either Green Bay or Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be great to see him and TJ and Derek play together. Just gotta get Derek on the defensive side of the ball. But I'm not gonna rule Green Bay out because he might want to be closer to his parents if his parents are still living in Wisconsin. I doubt it. If your sons are millionaires, why don't they move you somewhere warmer? So,
Did you hear about the Chicago connection?
oh, his wife plays for a professional soccer team in Chicago, right?
Yep. I don't know. They're also an option too. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I think you're right though. I don't think besides those three places, there's much of anywhere he would want to go.
Hmm.
That video though, I heard that video he took, basically like saying how much he appreciated the Texans fans, was actually taken in Wisconsin in a log cabin that I guess he owns there still. So I mean, he obviously still has some decent connections there.
Yes. All right. So that might stand me corrected there. His parents might still live there, which that's nice. I know that if I was a millionaire, my mother probably would not want to be living in the cold of New York anymore. She'd probably
Oh my
want to go
gosh.
somewhere warmer.
Western New York isn't a wonderful weather city?
Believe it or not, I know every single week when they talk about Buffalo going into games and they say, "Oh, beautiful Western New York, always temperate. Niagara Falls, beautiful." Never say anything bad about the weather. It is
Yeah.
kind of nasty.
Yeah, blistering hot. I mean, the heat here is insane. If it cooled down a
Oh,
little, I think this place would be a lot nicer.
we might be able to get some big names here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's too bad it's too hot all the time. All right, Russell Wilson, he's disgruntled. Is there any way he leaves Seattle this year?
no, no,
Yeah.
no.
I don't think there's any way he gets out. I think he could complain a lot, but I don't think I think he's willing to force the issue as much as he has, but I do not think that he's willing to go any further than that, and I feel that he would have to go further than that to actually try to force his way out of there. And I also feel that his statements are kind of just like being put out there so that he maybe gets some internal organization changes occurring, but I don't think he actually has an intent to leave.
I don't think there's really a better spot for him to go. He's in a good spot where he is. If he leaves, I can only imagine his offensive line is going to get worse if he gets traded anywhere.
I mean, they could just go back to the table that they were at a few years ago, and trade him to Cleveland. But they were trading to Cleveland. They were going to try to trade him to Cleveland to get Josh Allen at the number one pick. So I don't know if they'd like need a little extra to go Russell Wilson for Baker Mayfield, like maybe a third round pick on top of it or something. I mean, Baker's younger; he's still got room to develop, but I think that's maybe one really weird one that could. It's just
Yeah.
fun. I don't think it could actually happen. It's
No,
fun, but I don't think it could actually happen.
well,
Only because we heard about it maybe being able to happen in the past.
yeah. The thing that I've seen the most is him. Now, this means nothing. This is Vegas odds. Uh, he's most predicted to go to the Raiders, which I think that's just Vegas picking Vegas because they have no clue.
Yeah, I
But
mean you when a player is under contract somewhere, and you're betting on them to be somewhere else, and you know that release is not an option. Yeah, it's so up in the air. I mean, how many people would have picked L.A. for Stafford's landing spot?
no, I would not have guessed that.
I don't think anybody would have, because it just didn't seem like that would be something that either team would want to swing, but they did it. So hey, both of the Pounceys retired, and that's kind of interesting to me, only because I can't speak a terribly large amount about offensive line play and how well they were, but they had a lot of Pro Bowl appearances combined, and I'm pretty sure they were pretty well regarded around the league. Along with the fact that I actually remember watching one of them get drafted, and I guess this is the first memory I have of someone um, clearly getting drafted and then also having like their own choice retirement. I guess you could say like Jake Locker, but that wasn't a longevity thing. Like this is like they're actually at the point in their careers where they're like, okay, we've played enough, we're done. Um, so this is kind of big for me. Like, wow, I just actually saw a player go through his whole career kind of for the first time because the 2011 draft was really the first year I remember watching like the whole first round and seeing all the picks and being like, ooh, ah, bells and whistles and whatever.
Yeah, it's really weird to see them. What was it, 9 and 8 seasons for the two of them? Because one came into the league a year before the other one.
Yeah, 2010. So, 2010 to 2020 would be 11 years, and the other one would have played 10 years.
11, 10.
Yeah.
It's really. I mean, I'm happy that they're going out on their own terms because it's, offensive line play. That's terrible or terribly hard on your body. So
Yes.
I'm I have no problem with those two wanting to get out while they're still healthy and have like fun with their families, and because saw something Marshall Yanda when he retired, he said that he never felt better in his whole life being like 150 pounds lighter and being able to actually play with his kids and not having to worry about crushing them. So
Dude, these guys get in shape so quickly now once they leave.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's insane. I really before like Joe Thomas a few years ago, and I guess whoever else you could mention in that mix that I'm forgetting. But him really was like one of the first eye openers. Like, geez, these linemen probably aren't just like sitting around like, yeah, I want this, I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna have as much of this. They're actually having to make choices like, I need to eat more to
Yeah.
maintain my weight, and that's just crazy because I mean, otherwise the weight wouldn't come off as quickly as it does. Like these guys would slowly lose it, but it's sometimes where it's like these guys retire and then like it'll only take like 3 months for them to drop like 100 pounds.
hmm I couldn't imagine what they have to shove down their throats on a daily basis when they just don't want to eat anymore, but they have to hit a weight uh limit.
Yeah, it'd be tough. I don't know how that'd be. That'd be interesting. Hopefully the workouts don't make it too difficult to get the food down. Hopefully that means that they get to burn most of it off and aren't killing themselves eating so much. Um,
hmm
Matt Stafford, he's he's a he's a heck of a guy for not giving up ever. No matter how hurt he is, he always came back into the games for these Detroit Lions, and I think LA is happy to have such a tough guy at their quarterback helm. But he also donated $1 million to Detroit education recently, and I mean, just good guy Stafford. Gotta love what Matt Stafford just like. What can you dislike about Matt Stafford? I think if Matt Stafford won the Super Bowl for the next 10 straight years, no one would even be upset because of what he went through in Detroit and just how much of a good guy he is.
Yeah. He is incredible. I saw that he played with something torn in his arm all season, and he didn't want to say anything because the families in Detroit deal with a lot more than making millions of dollars playing football and being hurt. So he just said, I'm not going to say any of that. I'm just going to keep playing, which is insane because I feel like if I were to break my toe, I would call in to work. I wouldn't want to go to work. And he's going there every day with the one thing that's preventing the one thing that helps him do his job super well being torn. So
Yeah, arm's not that important playing quarterback if we're just gonna be
no,
completely honest. Like, it's just an arm.
just run around,
Just throw it with your foot, moron.
hand the ball off a couple times.
Yeah.
Hand the ball off to Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, hand the ball off to a guy who's older than you. Like, come on, man. Um, since we mentioned both of them the other day, let me make sure this is correct. I'm pretty sure it was these two guys. Do you know what year Matt Stafford was drafted?
2009, 2008.
Something like that. And no, actually, I think I'm thinking of two different guys now that I'm looking at it. Hang on. I think it's somebody else. Oh no, wait a minute. I see the thing. He just okay. If I had asked you this 9 days ago. Okay. And do you know what year Russell Wilson was drafted?
2012.
Yeah. So Stafford was either 2008 or 2009. I'm not sure. But did you know that even though their draft years, if it was 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 3 years apart for draft year, did you know that they're both like the same age? Because like I said, if I asked you this question 8 days ago, they would have both been 32 years old.
That's so weird.
Oh yeah, it's insane. It's really weird to think about. But yeah, just one of those things that's like, wow, it shows how important really, I guess, it can be to actually look at a player's age when you're drafting them, even though it's like, these guys are all young. Well, getting a 20-year-old compared to getting a 24-year-old, if you're planning to sign them to a second deal, is kind of a big deal. Now, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say. Usually, you think about that more in the NBA when it's like, I'm gonna pick this 21-year-old that played 3 years of college basketball, or this 18-year-old that only played his freshman year. You don't really think about it that much when it comes to the NFL draft because they're all 23, 20, 22, 23.
Yeah,
Then you got Tremaine Edmonds, who's 19.
yeah, they're around the same age normally. It's pretty weird for them not to be though. Um, so the Raiders decided that they had plenty of production out of Nelson Aguilar last year, so they're gonna cut Tyrell Williams, and I don't know if I love that pick or love that concept, just because not sure how him being injured for one season when he's been a fairly productive player is the right move. I don't know how Raiders fans feel about that, but if I was the Raiders, I wouldn't have done that in that position. And now it's interesting. There's another good receiver on the market.
Like I said, Hayden, when we talked about the Raiders, or no, when we talked about Juju, he's going to Vegas.
Yeah, if they made room for him, I guess that just makes sense. Like I said though, I can't imagine you go, "Hey, Antonio Brown worked out well. Let's get the other problem maker from Pittsburgh." There's something about going to Pittsburgh when you're a guy who seemingly didn't have any like character issues at all before the 10. Just it just changes you. Like Juju's still a really fun guy, but now he's making a little bit too much trouble for my liking.
These player coaches, they just create menaces, man. Mike Tomlin's a menace
But
factory.
Mike Tomlin has kept it all silent for so long. That's the weirdest part of it all. Is that it hasn't leaked out of that building much at all. Like, I guess
They
what Juju's doing is basically as public as you can go, but with all the Antonio Brown stuff, and then there were issues with him and Le'Veon Bell at the same time, and that stuff never got out. I mean, you got to say something for how well Mike Tomlin has actually kept things under wraps.
there must have been some PR guy that got fired a couple years ago that was just keeping all this really uh incognito, just flying under the radar, and they must have axed him, and now this is what's happening.
Somehow, some way. So, how much Broncos football you watched last year?
I think I watched
A game.
The Monday night game that they played against the Chiefs. Week 2 against the Texans, I watched that, and I watched them play the Bills. So I think I watched 3 Broncos games.
Yeah, probably about the same for me. But do you remember seeing AJ Boye at all? I should actually even ask. AJ Boye was on the Broncos, correct?
Yes.
Just had to check because honestly, I think I watched 3 Broncos games and I don't remember seeing him. Was he injured at all? Because he's not on the team anymore, and that's basically what we're getting to.
If I remember correctly, the Broncos throughout the whole season had a lot of secondary injuries. They played that game against the Bills. What was that, week 12, 11, 12.
Later in the season,
Well, they played
like week
that late in the
14.
14, something like that. They only had, I think, 4 healthy corners that game, and AJ Boye missed half the season, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. Um, I do remember there being big defensive backfield injuries for them before they headed into that game, and I don't I I don't know why they would release AJ Boye for an injury issue. Does that seem like a good decision to you? Do you like them cutting him?
I don't really know any of the other corners on their team. I know they drafted a rookie corner that played almost all the snaps this season at starting corner. AJ Boye got hurt week 1.
Okay. And how many
Uh,
games did he finish the season playing?
He played week 1 and then 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Hmm. So an interesting mix of games there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like them cutting him for that reason because, like you said, I really don't know much about the other talent at the cornerback position for them, but I don't think it makes much sense unless it's really like a cap issue, which I haven't heard about them being one of the teams that's close to the cap. And if you don't have a they have a rookie quarterback contract on their team, so if they're close to the cap now and that's why they cut him, that's just terrible cap management considering they don't even have to pay like a fifth of their cap to a QB.
Mm-hmm.
That's just poor. I mean, I
They're in
don't.
the running for Watson too, so they definitely it's not a cap issue.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I didn't think it was. Um, I don't know. I don't like cutting him though. I think you should keep that guy because, I mean, they're one of those teams we were talking about before where it's like a few things swing in their favor and they become very competitive very quickly. So cutting a player that could be like a significant piece on that defense doesn't make sense to me.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Orlando Brown does not want to play right tackle for the Baltimore Ravens because left tackle gets paid more. So, is what do you think of that?
I don't know why anyone would want their job to be harder. I understand that it does, like you said, comes with a bigger paycheck, and he did say that this is what his dad would have wanted him to do, because his dad also played left tackle.
You see, I I I kind of feel like you're not taking an opinion on this, but I'm going complete bag chase. I completely understand what he's saying. Like, yeah, go get it, man.
Oh,
I
no, I'm
I
always gonna go for players that want more money. That if they deserve it, which he definitely does. He filled in great at left tackle when Ronnie Staley went out. Do it. That-
what?
No, go and get the bag. I mean,
Oh,
Baltimore's
okay.
gonna get a pretty penny for him. They have to trade him. So,
Oh, they have to? They do?
hmm
What?
yeah.
Where's the have to come in?
Why would you release him when you know you can get something better?
Why would they not keep him under contract? What's you think he's gonna not show up to like
Well,
the
what are
schemes?
they
The
gonna?
schemes. Listen to this. The scheme is not changing, and if the scheme is not changing, I'm only saying the scheme isn't changing because there's a bunch of the same coaches. So I guess even if the scheme does change, then it will be all the same type of, let's say, verbal or um, whatever you want to say, clue-ins to how the system is working. Therefore, from a continuity standpoint, everything should be the same. So even if you're the Ravens, if he sits out all of training camp, that just means you don't have to pay him for any of it. And if he starts missing games, then that means that he starts owing you money, I'm pretty sure. So because it's just by choice that he would be missing those games. So then he would eventually have to come back, and even if he misses time, I'm sure he would be staying in shape. So by him missing practice time from stuff he already knows from the past 2 years, then what would be the risk in keeping him around? Or is it year? Sorry, I may be wrong. There's a year past 2 years. I thought he was past 2 years, but I'm not sure actually.
past 2 years because he came in the same year Lamar did. I
Yeah,
think maybe, yeah.
but Lamar was 3 years ago.
I meant 2 years before this last one. Sorry.
Okay, so
So
2 full seasons with Lamar.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's just my perspective on why they could actually hold him, even though he wants out.
Yeah. I I
I
just hate it when teams do that because
I hate it when they
I
do
know
it.
it's good for them, but
I hate it when
I
they do it too. But I think Deshaun Watson is in a lot more of a power situation than Orlando Brown is.
okay, I see where you're coming from. I
So I
at first
still think the Texans have to trade Deshaun Watson. I don't think the Ravens have to trade Orlando Brown.
or at first I thought you were gonna when you first started talking, I thought you were gonna say something along the lines of, well, they don't have to trade him. They can just make him the starting left tackle and move Ronnie Staley to right tackle. But
Oh
now I
yeah.
see
Then you
that
just
they're
tick off the
just
other guy. No, no, keep
yeah.
him at right tackle, but just yeah, if he sits out, whatever, because we can deal with it.
All right.
The other
Yeah.
option is for him to ask for an extension that still pays him like one of the best left tackles in the league, even though he's playing right tackle. Which, with their offense, I don't know why they would be completely against it.
Yeah. Well, I it just comes down to if it's really it's always for the bag, but how much does actually playing left tackle factor into it? Cuz if they say, "Hey, we're going to make you the second highest paid left tackle right behind Ronnie Staley, so you'll be the two highest paid tackles in the NFL." Does he then say, "No, cuz I still just want to play left tackle. I don't care."
I highly doubt it's about that. I highly doubt that it's actually about position and it's mostly about money. If it's about position, that's just weird.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'd be shocked. I really don't think that's true, but I also don't think that we'd ever get an answer to that question anyways.
Orlando Brown Jr., if you'd love to come on the Illegal Use of Hands to the Face football podcast answer these questions, we'd love to have you.
Oh yes, I'm sure he's listening in now. All right, next question. More Raiders talk. Heard about the a report saying that I'm pretty sure you told me about it that Marcus Mariota trade talk is kind of in swing because people were calling about Derek Carr. The Raiders said we're not trading Derek Carr, but then they said we will give you Mariota instead.
Mm-hmm. I think Marcus Mariota needs to be a starting quarterback in the NFL just so I can be happy.
Well,
The
I'm not going to disagree with that. Mariota in college is one of my favorite players in football history. So, I mean, I can't disagree. I want Mariota to play and be out on the field for some team, not just sitting on the bench. So, I mean, I don't know where would he go though. Where would he go that would be a successful place for him?
some place that already has an iffy quarterback situation is probably going to draft a quarterback and they just need a bridge one. So the
Really,
football team,
you want to say oh, you seem to like to send every quarterback to the football team. What do you what I think you put him with like a strong running game. I mean, I just look at teams that are have like kind of some open QB competitions here. Maybe somewhere like Indianapolis. What do you think of that?
Indy would be nice. Maybe the Patriots.
Uh, yes, New England would make some interesting things happen. Um, yeah, I kind of like the idea of him going to a running game, or New England would be cool too with like a short passing game, something like that. Um,
Hmm.
we
And then
we're thinking, what are we thinking? Would you bet? I don't know, just because of the way everyone's been talking. I'm not gonna say the Broncos because the Broncos are in division, and like you said, I think Deshaun Watson actually probably at this point is a the favorite place for him to land is there.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Everywhere else is kind of iffy and all over the place. Like, Chicago, maybe?
Maybe. He has really no say in the matter, but I would not want to go to Chicago.
Oh, no,
Uh,
but I'm just talking in terms of teams that would actually want to trade for him. Because I don't
yes.
think anybody with a quarterback already is going to be like, yes, let's trade for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I don't even know what kind of offer Chicago would make. Well, we got two backup quarterbacks on our roster. We'll just straight up trade you one for him. And then the Raiders could get Trubisky or Foles.
The only other two places I kind of think about or wonder about is if San Francisco truly is like questioning Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe they could have him there for a QB competition, and that's the only one I'm really willing to say would be a spot he could land that wouldn't be an immediate starting job. And then depending on what happens with Dak Prescott in Dallas, if Dak leaves because the Cowboys don't want to pay him, but in all reality, we think the Cowboys would franchise tag him before they would let him walk. Maybe Mariota goes there.
Maybe.
That sure
Uh,
would be interesting.
since I said it, I really do like the idea of Mariota going to the Patriots. Uh, Josh McDaniels still gets to do his fun stuff that he wanted to do with Cam, where he can run the ball with the quarterback. And you get a guy that, at this point, I'm not going to say he's a better quarterback overall than Cam, but he might be a
After
little bit.
last season,
Yeah,
I think he is a better quarterback than Cam.
just a guy that's more accurate with the ball. Because late in the season, Cam just looked like he was hurting. He was throwing the ball in the dirt.
Well, he was missing, but I mean, no matter who ends up playing quarterback for that team, they need help all over that offense.
I agree.
It's not a situation that I think many people are going to be wanting to enter in favor of some other situation. So more than likely, you're probably looking at a trade to get some players there that would want to be there. I don't see many offensive players, even in free agency this year, being like, yeah, I want to go to New England. I
No
think
one
they
wants
could
to go to
convince.
New England.
No, I think on the other hand, Belichick and the way his defense works, I think you can convince some guys to want to sign there and play defense for him. But I think they're going to have a hard time attracting offensive talent to that team.
Especially without Brady there. I don't know who wants to go to New England and put up with the Patriot way.
Especially not on offense.
Yeah, and to lose games. I mean,
The
you can go there and be your best self on defense, if like you said, but
the
offense.
yeah, the one thing you have going for you if you're an offensive player, going to New England is that everything else may suck, but your numbers may look really good if you're anywhere as competent because they really don't have much of anything at any of the skill positions on offense. Should say that this isn't talking about O linemen either. This is really just talking about skill position guys on offense, at least in terms of what I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm. I saw something. I think it was on TikTok. Guy was naming positions and stuff on teams that he got to the Patriots. He's like, I can't. It was tight end. He's like, I don't even know.
Like
I,
a guy,
yeah, name the starting tight end on the Patriots.
Ryan Izzo.
I thought of Asi. It's just like yikes
Yeah, no,
at that point.
no, that's even worse than the Bills. No, yeah, that's pretty tough. I mean, like, your standard issue football fan knows Lee Smith is the starting tight end for the Buffalo Bills. No. Stop talking about the Bills. Okay. Next thing. Our yearly notice that somebody puts out. I think this. I'm not even kidding. I'm losing track of how many years this has been in a row, but it feels like this is actually the 5th year in a row that somebody has now come out and said, "Yeah, Pat Peterson wants out of Arizona, and he has then immediately came out after that person says it and said, no, I don't. I still like it here. I don't want to leave, and this is like the 5th year in a row. So what's up with that?
It seems like since he's gotten his contract extension, which I think was in 2017,
Yeah.
it's just been, oh yeah, Pat P wants out. Can't stand it there anymore.
He's washed.
And
He's ring chasing.
yeah, I
It's really weird that this can happen every year, though. Like,
I can't wait until next year. It was great. It was great to read it, and then because it gets me every time. Of Pat Pete wants out. Ooh, that would be a nice pickup for so and so team. So and so. I always think of the Bills, but a couple other teams. And then by the time I finish reading the article or the tweet fully processes in my head from Schefter, it's like, oh, this has happened since I was 16, 15, 14.
Who's leaking this every year, and who is the guy on the opposite end believing it every year?
When you're Rap Sheet and Schefter, I feel like you have to tweet something like that out every time.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. Like, if it happens every year, how can you get somebody to fall for it every year?
I don't know. At this point I would just put "here we go again" and then tweet. I would just always have it in my drafts on Twitter.
And that was
Just ready to tweet it out. This has been in my draft since last season when the last report came out that Pat Pete wants out.
Yeah, you're right. But do you think that I feel like I heard this almost like 2 years ago now. Somebody says it, and even now more than ever since it's happened again like the past 2 years with him. Does it make sense that the Cardinals, because like you said, it was the year after he signed that initial long-term deal with them that it started happening. Do you think that the Cardinals are the people putting this out every year and just hoping it sticks at some point? And even though Pat Pete isn't the one who wants to leave, they put that out there because they want to get rid of him?
I really want to believe that in his rookie season, Pat Pete bumped into some media guy and just said, "Hey, get out of my way." And then that media guy just held it against him, and he said, "Oh, well, when you get into your older years, I'm gonna tweet out every year that you want out."
Yeah, I'm gonna text a different reporter every year, and a different guy's gonna post it. That way I never make the same guy post it twice, but I'm gonna leak it to somebody different every year that you want out of here, and it's just gonna screw up your relationship with everybody here in Arizona.
And you're gonna have to come out every year and say that you don't want out.
Yeah, just to be annoying. Richard Sherman decided to straight up tell everybody how many more years he's going to play for, and he says he's going to play for 2 more seasons. So, do you think more players should do this?
Put out their deadlines right away. Just, I got 2 years left in me.
Yeah. I think it's nice. Yeah, I think it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, you don't get into a situation like Vontae Davis or Anquan Bolden, where they just quit on you in the middle of the season.
Middle of the season. Both of those were still the beginning of the year.
It was after OTAs, training camps, getting to know the guys in the building. You just do that to them?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty weird. No, I get what you're saying, but I'm not talking about those type of situations. I'm just talking about like these guys who know how long they're gonna play for, just saying like, hey, I'm gonna play 2 more seasons. I don't think you're gonna see a lot of quarterbacks doing this, no matter what, because quarterbacks are kind of always being like ring chasing type of things. I think if Breeze would have won a Super Bowl in any of the past 4 years, he would have called it quits after just one. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of what has made him come back the past like 3 years, to be honest. So I don't think quarterbacks will do it, but I think other positions could could start doing this. And then I mean, it's nice to for their team that has them or they sign with to know, hey, this is how much longer they're playing for.
Yeah, he. Yeah, I think it's smart. Just because then, if you keep going, you kind of have to look back at that and be sad. Well, I did play, or I did say 2 years, or I don't know. It's a nice benchmark to set for yourself. Of I'm not gonna allow myself to get any more banged up. I got 2 years left in me. But do you think that hurts or because he's a free agent? Do you think that hurts or helps his value, or if it does anything to it at all?
I think it helps his value because I think if teams know how much time you want left on your deal, then they sign you to this 2 year deal that he just made very clear he wants, and they'll basically be like, "Hey, I'll give you. I was only gonna give you, like, say I don't know what the price tag for Sherman would be. Let me just think about. Let me just say that a team was gonna be like, I'll give you 11 mil for the next 2 years, so 22 million total contract. But like, if we know you're gonna retire after the next 2 seasons, we'll pay you 12 and a half or 13 mil a year instead, just because you're being honest with us. I don't know. I think it would influence teams slightly to maybe pay somebody a little more.
And Sherman's his own agent, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he'll be able to get that across, the point across to them of I got 2 years left in me. Make it worth it.
Yeah, I would hope so. Then the last thing to mention before we get to some of the other fun topics for today. This one's sad though because it really is out of nowhere and it came out today at like 4:50. Vincent Jackson passed away even though we don't know what happened exactly. We just know there was a missing persons report filed for him, and then if I read the article correctly on what happened to him, they went to a hotel room that he was staying at, and they checked in on him, and at that time he was okay. But then when there were no like health issues at all or anything like that. But then when they went and checked on him today, he had passed away alone in the hotel room, and he was 38 years old, and he played for the Chargers and Buccaneers, and that was just really surprising to me. Just whenever any former players, especially that were around for so long and kind of significant to the sports world, pass away, it's just surprising. So I mean, rest in peace to him, obviously, but it's just kind of it's always a strange thing to deal with when you see someone who is kind of so involved with something you're so interested in pass away so early. It's sad too.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. Because I was asleep until right before we started recording the podcast, and yeah, that's really sad. I'm shocked by that,
Yeah,
especially guys so young, and just retired. What?
like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, 2 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's wild. It's like, oh, man, what went wrong? But I mean, you hope that it's an instance that is few and far between, and there's not very many of these type of situations happening often. You feel bad for him and his family, though, obviously. So, just best best future hopes for everybody that knew him, and well wishes to them all. Hopefully, they can get through a tough time.
Yeah.
All right, though. The next two things that we wanted to talk about that are a lot more fun than that. Do you want to talk about new head coach rankings first, or would you like to talk about rule changes we would like to see first? I'll leave this one up to you, and I will let you lead into it as well, no matter what you want to do. Just start us off.
I want to do new rules first, and the number one rule that is on my list: we need more swagger in the NFL. I want custom cleats. I want custom eye tape. I want custom arm tape. I want to see John 3:16 written on Tebow's eye black. Granted, That's what will get Tebow back in the league, actually, if we allow that. So
Well, I mean
that's my
that would just allow him to go up like another level of play. Like you thought he was good in Tebow time in Denver. Like he'd elevate his play if that was written under his eye black on his eye black.
he will be a lightning rod for righteousness if he gets that back.
So basically, what you're arguing for the rule changes to be here is that you should be able to basically wear whatever you want as long as you have the jersey, the pants, the team affiliated socks, and the helmet on. Like everything else you have, you should be able to customize in your own manner.
Yeah, if you want to wear Supreme arm sleeve, go for it. It'd be so dope. I want more player expression, especially because it's not like the NBA allows custom sneakers, and you can see the NBA players' faces. That's the NFL. You can't see their faces, so you want to stick out more. Allow them to wear more swag. I don't know what the point is of not letting them do that. Besides, Roger Goodell wants them to have no fun.
You know, I kind of agree with you. The two issues, well, the two things that I think are noteworthy. One is an issue. The other is not an issue. It's something else that I just had a thought about while you were talking. The issue I have is that if you do this, I don't care if players have Supreme or Under Armour or Nike or Adidas or whatever brand they want a sleeve on their arm to be represented by. I just don't want. I don't want like most of the equipment to just be like awful. Like I don't want somebody wearing purple arm sleeves for the Green Bay Packers while the Packers are playing against the Minnesota Vikings. I don't want that. However, I think the one place where I don't really care about color schemes because it's almost like I don't know why, but to me it's almost completely different, and I've kind of gotten used to the concept for the My Cause My Cleats thing, is with the cleats themselves. Is I don't really care what color the cleats are. If you want to wear like red cleats and you're a player for the Chargers, okay, I don't care. That's fine. But most of the time, please, I not. I was gonna say please don't change the rule, but yes, actually do change the rule. I love the idea of players being able to wear more things to represent themselves, but I would like them to make the rules so that you kind of have to stick within the realm of your team's colors so that it doesn't just get egregious. And the other thing I was going to say in regards to this is that you say so many players faces are hidden and it's like you don't get to see them like you do in the NBA. And yet before they banned like all the cool different visors you could wear on your helmets, tons of players were getting into those and hiding their faces more. I would love to see those return as well, but obviously that's for a concussion issue, so I understand why they don't come back entirely. But yeah, no, there were a lot of guys that were purposely hiding their faces before they weren't allowed to.
No, I get that. I just like the helmet in general. If you want to wear a cool face mask, that makes you stick out more when they put the camera on you. So why not do it? I need more face visor colors. I need more of everything. And the thing that really made this stick out to me is Alvin Kamara ran for those 6 touchdowns on Christmas, and he wore the custom cleats. And the NFL fined him. I think it was 100K, 50K, 100K, something like that. And then they requested for the cleats so they could put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. That's not a very good standard.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think that I like your rule here. I think it's funny that the first rule you led with is kind of a rule that's not even really about gameplay, because all of my rules I came up with kind of I mean they're closer to gameplay than this one was, because this isn't anything that's going to create a penalty flag on the field. This is obviously a money thing. So yeah, interesting. I agree with you though. That doesn't make any sense. I do love, like I said though, cleats of any color I'm cool with, because if they could do even more like weekly things for like my cause, my cleats, or even like special things like Christmas cleats, sure, do it. Why not?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Glad you're on board.
Yeah, it didn't take much for me though. Um, want me to go with one of mine?
Sure.
Okay. Do we think do we think that the NFL is moving away from a kickoff entirely?
I really want them to.
You want them to.
Yes. Punt returns are more fun to watch.
Hmm. I didn't think you were going to say that. Oh, okay. Then yeah, you're basically where I was going though. Um everybody has been talking about this like thing where somehow we replace the onside kick with like this has been like the past year or so or even 2 years maybe. We replace the onside kick with a 4th and 15 and you punt and sorry, you just go for it on 4th and 15 instead of kicking the onside kick, and that you just immediately get the ball at 4th and 15 after you score a touchdown or whatever to try to retain possession, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I don't like with the way they're presenting it is that even though based off what you just said, it kind of agrees with my concept, is that you either select and you have to tell the refs that you are going for it, or you still kick off. And like you said, I think we're probably eventually, even though not by choice, going to get to a point where the NFL just entirely gets rid of the kickoff. And if they are just going to get to that point where they do just entirely get rid of the kickoff, then I think they should go with a sorry, get rid of the on if they're going to go get rid of the onside kick first, then they should go straight to the team that scores the touchdown or kicks a field goal, gets the ball back straight on 4th and 10 from their own 35-yard line. Everybody else has been saying 4th and 15, but I don't think you need to extend it considering the fact that you 10 yards is how many you need to get in 4 plays. Why? And you are only going to get 1 play in this scenario. So I think 4th and 10 plus the onside kick only needs to go 10 yards from your own 35-yard line is a good place to start. Just after scores occur or to start the game, because then the other option is to punt, right? So punt or go for it, and I think that would be the best solution to basically our kickoff issues, and that's kind of if we're going to get rid of the kickoff, that's the rule change I would like to see, because I don't want to see some half implementation of okay, you either kick off or you go for it on 4th and 10. That's just a weird concept, and then football just becomes even more difficult to explain to people who don't already understand it. So, do you agree with me in that sense?
Yes, I do. I do. I Kickoffs just get so many guys hurt, and we said this last episode. You just don't want players getting hurt, especially good players, and there are teams that have starters out there on coverage, and
Most teams do. Most teams
yeah,
have at least some starting players on their kickoff or punt teams.
and it just
Usually kickoff.
I think about how much it would suck because Jordan Poyer does kickoffs for us.
Hyde does
How
too
yeah, how much would it suck if those guys got hurt?
on a kickoff. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It'd be terrible.
So if we could just eliminate that and make it a punt or a go for it, it's so much safer, so much more fun to watch. Because I would love to see the first ever fake punt, 4th
Yeah,
10
yeah. You
conversion.
just scored a touchdown and then you fake your 4th down punt.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean that'd be something. I mean, it is kind of an interesting concept in football now. You then it's like you score and you really retain possession until you decide to give it back up.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know what the conversion rates are on 4th and 10, but I'm assuming they're higher than the onside kicks ever were. But I think it would be something that the sport would benefit from in the long run.
Yes, especially with teams like the Chiefs, where it seems like they've always got something up their sleeve for every situation.
Yeah,
It, that I would love to see Kansas City just get 5 in a row and like start of the game they have possession the whole first half. The other team never gets to touch the ball.
You see, and I think that's the thing that's scaring a lot of people away from this rule. Is just like, oh, the Chiefs would get it way too often. Well, yeah, the Chiefs would probably be able to convert a high percentage of these attempts, but do you actually think that Andy Reid would be like, yeah, we're gonna start attempting every one of these? I don't think he would, because I
No.
don't think Andy Reid is going for it most of the time when it is 4th and 10 anyways. If we started seeing that Andy Reid is always going for it on 4th and 10, then okay, that makes a difference. But I mean, I don't think most teams, especially talking about from the 30 your own 35-yard line, are gonna be going for it much more than. Jeez, I mean, it'd have to be really late in the game, and otherwise, it'd have to be probably fourth and less than 3. I mean, do you know
Yes.
of any team that would be early in the game, see a 4th and 4 from their own 35 and be like, we have to go for this? Teams,
No.
then the analytics may say to do that nowadays, but teams are not willing to do that yet.
Yeah. I no team is willing to do that.
And we
So
may get to the point where eventually teams are like, hey, 4th and 10 isn't that crazy to go for, but I don't think it's for a long time. And I wouldn't worry about if we start with a 4th and 10 retaining possession. I wouldn't worry that that would change the game too much, at least not in the near future at all.
yeah, that I don't think something like that's gonna happen for at least maybe another 10 years, where you get a new wave of young coaches that are
I don't
very
even think that long, because
uh,
I think 10 years is where we start looking at like, okay, we're going for it on, like, just recently we've started going for it on 4th down a lot, where if it's like midfield or further and it's like 4th and 3 or less, like, I think the next wave of coaches is like, okay, own 40-yard line, 4th and 5, 4th and 6, we'll still be willing to go for it. And then next wave beyond them, so maybe even another 10 years, like 20 years down the line, like, okay, we haven't gained anything on our first 3 plays, but we think if we throw the ball past the sticks, we still have a decent chance to convert here. Like, I think it's a real long time before we get that far.
yeah.
How many rule changes do you have in your little list?
6 total, and we already hit 2 of them because I also had that in my notes.
All right, okay, that's cool. I have 5 more, so you have 4 more.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go with another one of mine. All fumbles that go out of play, meaning out of bounds or through the end zone, as long as they do not go backwards, should be returned to the spot that the offense initially fumbled the ball at. If they go backwards, you will still, if the fumble goes backwards though, you'll still lose the yards where it goes out of play. Or if it went out of your own end zone, it would be a safety still.
I also have that in my notes, but I have it written as if you fumble the ball and it goes out of bounds, you just get the ball back and it's 2nd or 3rd down at that point, or 4th down. You just get it back where it was when the play started.
So if I fumble on 1st down, it's still 1st down when I fumble the ball out of
No,
bounds?
it's 2nd down.
Oh, no, yes.
You
Yes.
lose it
No,
down.
that's
You lose it down at that point. Don't
no,
fumble the
but
ball.
that's not even losing a down because the play ended. So that down did happen.
Yes,
Yes.
that but you don't get any of the yards on it. So if you were to
Oh.
gain 15 yards and then someone forces a fumble to go out of bounds, you just get it in 2nd and 10 again,
Oh,
or 2nd and 10.
jeez. So
Uh,
if I catch a pass 12 yards down the field, then make a cut and I'm running up the sideline and I'm 20 yards down the field and then I finally fumble and the ball goes down out of bounds there, you're saying the ball is returned all the way back to the 20 yards where it was initially spotted
Yes,
before
I
that.
want
Jeez,
to. I want
that's
to be brutal.
that's a big penalty. I
I
kind
want
of
to
get.
be brutal with this because it stops the fumbling out of the back of the opponent's end zone problem. So you don't lose possession of the ball there. but also at the same time, it still enforces why that rule is there of don't fumble the ball if you want to score.
Okay. Now I'm gonna throw a wrench in your whole thing. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
A ball a ball is returned for a touchdown off of a kickoff or a punt, or rather not returned for a touchdown, returned to like the 1 yard line, fumbled through the end zone on a kickoff, a punt, a defensive score, whatever. What happens?
Replay it.
Replay it entirely. So the
Yeah.
defense or so if it's a defensive, like if it's an inch away from a defensive touchdown, the offense is going to retain possession.
Yeah. Don't fumble the ball.
I'm actually kind of interested in your rule
Hey, wait.
because
Do you
it
mean
balances it out.
you said for like a kickoff or a punt there?
No, I said defense too.
Oh, defense. All right. So for defense, I think you should just get the ball right where you picked it off then. So if you pick it off at the
Okay.
30 and bring it, you just get the ball at the 30. Then.
That's what I was going to say. And then on a punt or a kickoff, you would be down where you caught the ball.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, that would be okay. Well, so so then this happens on a kickoff. A kick returner. No. I can't. Nah, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna say this. I don't want to talk about this forever, but I don't think I'm gonna agree with you on this. I just think that it should be returned to the team that possessed the ball where they fumbled it. I understand why you say it though, because the game is leaning so much towards it is leaning so much towards the offense's favor already, but I don't think we should have penalties. Well, not even penalties. This rule is just in terms of fumbling the ball out of the end zone, and it's not a penalty, but it's just like it's a very dumb way to change possession because you're actually telling players to not try to make as spectacular of a play when in the NFL what we want is players that make spectacular plays. And you're saying diving for the end zone and sticking the ball out is a bad thing because it could hurt your team too much. And I don't like doing that. So I just think you return the ball to where the team fumbled it from. And I will say, like, the amount of pass interference on the defense and defensive holdings we get are not flags that I like to see. Those make the game less exciting, but they are a big part in why the offense is scoring so many points nowadays. But I don't think that means that we should be setting such drastic penalties in for a new rule about fumbles through the end zone, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. This, since I know that my list is still one ahead of yours because we had two that were the same, I'll go again. I'll just say the next thing I have is get rid of taunting penalties because they are way too difficult to classify as whether something should count as taunting or not. I guess the only time that I would be okay with taunting staying in is any like physical a physical engagement between a player. Like if a player is like dancing in someone's face, okay. But if the other player is just trying to walk away from the play and then the other player is purposely like dancing in front of them so they can't get away from the play, then that's where it becomes taunting if there's a physical like interaction. But I don't think anything verbal or like showboaty or anything like that should ever be called as taunting because I think it's just a part of the game, and I think it's what makes it's another piece of what makes the NFL so fun to watch.
Yes. It helps players build a brand too if they can do fun stuff. Yeah, I agree that if you are making a 110% effort to try to make yourself shown to a person, then yeah, that's when it's taunting. But if you're just, hitting the salsa and it happens to be right in front of the guy that you just mossed, that shouldn't be taunting.
Yeah. Do you um d- do you so you basically just agree with what I said then?
Yes,
All
yes.
right. All right. That's cool. That one wasn't the same as one of yours, I'm guessing.
No, it was not.
All right, then you bring another one up that you have.
All right. This has been something that has never sat well in my stomach when I watch football games. It's always bugged me. Why is it that when a field goal is missed, the ball is placed where it was kicked and not where it was snapped? Do you know
Um,
why?
I have a guess.
Because I have no idea why. It's
I
just something
You
that
see,
is
you're this is this reasoning that I have is like as old school as it can get. Okay, are you ready?
yeah.
So, when you initially write the rules for football and you put them all down, you don't know what pieces of the rule book are going to be like widely used and how it will evolve and stuff as the game goes on and on, right?
Yeah.
So, when you initially write the rules, the earliest parts of the game had it so that when you kicked field goals were worth more than touchdowns, right?
Mhm.
Now, do you know about free kicks?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know about them, but just in case anybody doesn't know, free kick can occur after you make a fair catch, and when you make a fair catch, you have the opportunity to kick the ball basically out of a kickoff formation, but if it goes through the uprights, it is still worth the value of a field goal. So when you write those two rules initially, and you expect that free kicks will actually be a tool that is utilized fairly often, you just write in the rules that if a field goal is attempted and missed, then what happens is that the ball will be placed where the ball was kicked from. And with that wording, that is how the initial writing may have been. Um, since you asked the question, uh, as for how you actually want to change the rule, it doesn't really bother me if they changed it to where the ball was snapped from. I would be fine with that too. But I just from like an educated guess standpoint, that is what my guess would be as to why that is written as it is.
Yeah. I noticed that most of my rules are defensive centric because that would benefit the uh
Oh, it
well,
would
the team
balance the game
kicking it.
out.
Yeah, it does, and I just don't like the idea of, well, if you punt the ball, there's no other situation really in the NFL or in football, where if you turn the ball over or if you throw an incompletion, well, no, if you were to throw an incompletion on fourth down, if Patrick Mahomes throws an incompletion on fourth down, he runs 50 yards backwards. The ball isn't placed where he threw the ball; it's placed where it was snapped. So
That that is a really interesting argument. Could you imagine if every time you threw an incompletion, you had to take the spot from where the pass was attempted to to
and move
respot
it
the
back.
ball? Oh my gosh. Um I'll tell you what, that would kill the passing game quickly. That would kill the passing game very quickly, and we would become, if that were a rule change, the run game would the Ravens would probably win the Super Bowl. And I'm not even kidding. I think the Ravens would probably win the Super Bowl like almost immediately. Yeah, that's that's interesting thought. Interesting thought. And I'll say, that was not a thought I had. And just so you know, like um actually all three of I have three rules left. How many do you have left?
Two.
You have two more? Okay, so I'll go with one here and then we'll switch back and forth for the last four. My last three are all basically in favor of the defense, if that makes you a little bit happier. Because yes, I
Okay.
agree that this game is too offensive centric. Okay, so the premise for my next one is basically that intentional grounding is stupid. It's dumb. I freaking hate the penalty. I hate the classifications for it. I hate all of it. All right. So
Yes.
just like in terms of what I said before, with the ball going out of bounds and stuff, I I don't think that, and I don't. It's kind of a protection thing, but it's also not. I don't think that you should be able to drop back to pass the ball basically without the threat of losing yardage off of a sack. And it seems like quarterbacks are getting we're getting a lot more athletic guys now that it seems like sack numbers are dropping off like drastically recently. I don't know if they actually are because I haven't looked into the numbers like over the years of how many sacks people have been getting in recent years, but it just feels like teams aren't even able to create pressures in ways that they used to. And even if they are creating pressure, a guy can just run out of the pocket now and throw the ball out of bounds because most of the guys we're having enter the league from the quarterback position are very athletic. I don't understand why you write that rule, no matter when this rule was written. And I can try to think about it based on whenever the rule was created. I don't know when it was created, but that you can throw the ball out of bounds or out of play, right? All right, that's fine. Who wrote the classification that it's outside of the pocket? Um, Honestly, I don't get that at all, and I don't get why. I really don't think I would like the rule if it was just that you could throw it out of play whenever just to get rid of the ball. But I really think I would like that rule more than the fact that you have to run outside of the pocket to throw it out of play, and then you have to bring in like actual human like um does the ref interpret this as being inside the pocket or outside the pocket or what? And then the other part of it is that the ball is supposed to make it past the line of scrimmage um to the ball is supposed to make it past the line of scrimmage for it to not be intentional grounding either when you're outside the pocket. And half the time it doesn't even seem like that happens, and it still doesn't matter. If a quarterback is in a really deep bad situation that he dug himself into and he's 25 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then he only throws the ball 15 yards forwards out of bounds and that doesn't get a flag for it somehow, it doesn't make any sense. But that's all to say that the intentional grounding rules are so specific that I think they should just be cut from the game. We have people like Tom Brady who have executed for years perfectly perfectly thrown like screen passes at the feet of running backs when they're not open. They're not open, so we can throw the ball near the guy but still throw an incomplete pass. I think that would make it a larger challenge for the offense and still make it so that they need to actually figure out how to do that on a more high level, because lots of guys really don't do that well. And I think that would make an extra challenge for teams and also help the defense in that you really, if you have everybody covered down the field, even if the quarterback gets outside the pocket, if he has no room to run, then he's going to lose yards here. He's going to have to take a sack, or he's going to get the intentional grounding call, because my new intentional grounding call would just be that you have to try to target a receiver, right? If you don't target
Yeah.
a receiver, then it is intentional grounding. And that helps the defensive play, and I like that a lot more than the stupid way we have it written now.
I agree. It's yeah, I hate how the rule was set up when probably passing just started becoming more and more like just started passing, not passing because the run game was always superior to the passing game, but came up there when passing started becoming more and more of a thing, and guys were just spiking the ball when they didn't want to get sacked. So yeah, I think it's ridiculous because it's, oh, you gotta get out of the pocket. Well, if you can't get out of the pocket, if you're Tom Brady, you're just chucking the ball right at the ankles of your running back every time to get the incompletion.
Yeah,
So
and the other part of that situation right there that you described that I mentioned earlier is that it actually does still allow for a level of risk in that, because if you have a quarterback who's not used to doing that, he could still throw that ball straight into the belly of a defensive lineman and have it picked off.
yeah,
It just creates more room for error, and that's much more enjoyable than how we have it now, where it's like, okay, he's not open, let me jog out here and just loft the ball out of bounds. It's boring. And the defense did their job well, and now rather than rewarding someone for doing their job well, as I said earlier with the diving for the end zone for the pylon and fumbling out of it, out of the end zone, you're discouraging players from attempting to do well. It's just like, really, you're not gonna like be like, oh, yes, the offense loses 5 yards here because the defense did their job well. No, it's just the defense did their job well, so the offense is going to remain at the spot they were at before.
yeah.
It's annoying.
It's really weird. We're too young-ish, we're 19 NFL fans, and we're advocating for more defensive play instead of high-powered offense, which seems like everyone.
Oh yeah,
is,
and like I said, I've got 2 more of these.
Yeah, instead of high power, I have something that might slow down the game a little bit, but I like it. There should be no limit on challenges if you win them. If you keep winning them, you should have unlimited amounts.
I will straight up just say yes to you. I have a different rule written down that's sort of about challenges, but yeah, in terms of what you're talking about, yeah, I would just agree with you. Yeah. I would propose a different rule change entirely from what you're saying that I have written down here, but yes, I completely agree with you. If you're constantly proving that the referees are making the wrong calls, then yes. The only thing that I don't see a reason to rewrite this rule for is because I have yet to watch a game where I have seen a team get 3 challenges correct. I haven't seen
exactly, but I just will dread the point when that
happens. The day it matters, the day a team gets 3 correct. Yes, you're exactly right. The day that a team does get 3 challenges correct and can't get a 4th one and it screws them over, yes, it will be an awful day for the NFL. It will not be a good day for the NFL.
I feel like right after that happens, that the very next offseason, that's when this rule would be put in place, when that actually happens.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Very, very dumb. Okay. Ready for another one that hurts offenses and helps defenses? This one's like so obvious. Okay. You know how I said I don't like defensive holding and defensive pass interference? Like they're just kind of annoying fouls to me.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's a way to help the at least the defensive holding argument. You know what happens when somebody holds on defense and it's fourth and 99? Or sorry, let's make it a realistic one. 4th and 88.
What happens?
Oh, well, it's a 5-yard penalty and it's an automatic first down. Right?
Oh, okay. Well, what should happen in your reality?
Okay.
Your new rules put in place.
No. Hang on. All right. So what's the equal opposite of defensive holding?
Offensive holding?
Very simple concept right there, correct?
Yes.
Now, if it's an automatic first down if the defense does it, what should it be if the offense does it?
Automatic 4th down.
Loss of down.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry. Just down. Yes, down changes, but not that drastic. So if you hold on 1st and 10 on the offensive line and get a 10-yard penalty, then it's 1st and 20. My proposal is that if you hold on 1st and 10 and you get a 10-yard penalty, it is now 2nd and 20 with a loss of down. If this rule should be balanced. If we have rules that can occur on either side of the ball, the classification of the rule should be the same. So if you hold on that 4th and 88 I talked about earlier on defense, then that needs to turn into 4th and 83 with a replay of the down, correct?
Yes.
If we want it to be equal with the offense. Or the offensive version of it needs to turn into a loss of down while the defensive version remains an automatic first down, because it needs to be equal in the opposite perspective, correct?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I'm advocating for this, is that something like holding should result in a loss of down along with the distance of the penalty, because that is how it works for the opposite side of the ball. So that is how it should work, in my opinion.
All right. I have no problem with that. It makes complete sense.
Yeah. Okay. Last one for you.
Yes, my last one is, this is not original at all. Everyone's had this thought. The NFL needs to switch their overtime format to college overtime. Just have it be a shootout. Start on the, what do you think would be a good down? Because I thought the 35. What do you think?
With NFL kickers? And you're talking
Yeah.
the opponent's 35, right?
Yes, the opponent's 35.
I do think that almost all kickers can make it from 52 to 53 yards, which is where you would be kicking from if you got no yards from that distance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could still I think you could make it the 30 still and still have kickers miss a decent amount from 47 yards or 48 yards. I think you'd still be seeing a decent enough number of missed kicks from that far out that you could go with overtime rules from the 30 and still have games end fairly soon after. Because even if you went from the 30, I don't know. The one thing I don't like about that is starting that far out is you do have the potential to reset the downs twice, and that could make a game take a long time. If a team could potentially have a 12-play, 30-yard scoring drive and then still have their 1 point or 2 point conversion, meaning they had 13 plays, which times 40 seconds is like that's 2/3 of 13, so it's like 8 or 9 minutes, right? Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time to be taking up for overtime, and that could occur every time you possess the ball. So if both teams possess the ball for like the maximum amount of time I just described, after one overtime, you could have already played for an extra 20 minutes. So
I factored that in because this is a two-parter.
okay.
So I had college OT starts on 35, but you have a possession clock. You don't have a play clock. You have a possession clock of 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to score somehow.
Oh boy, but you still have downs?
Yes, you still have downs. 5 minute possession clock. Each time you get, so if it gets re-upped, like you score a touchdown, opponent scores a touchdown, you get another timeout. Each team gets one timeout every time.
All right, that's interesting. But I think just because of what I said earlier, I think it overcomplicates things.
Yeah,
This game for us, we follow it so closely that we understand there's never a moment where we're watching what's happening on the field and we're like, what's that? But if you're trying to teach someone about the game, and it's like I said before, it's like we already have so many complex rules for people that don't know the game. We add this to overtime, and it's like, okay, well, we still have the downs, but there's also a possession clock, and if the possession clock expires, then this team gets no points and the ball go to the other team, and then they can just kick and only take 3 seconds off their possession. You see how this quickly becomes really flawed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of like the idea of having having it like college overtime, but I think we could even simplify it even more than college overtime. Um, because it seems like what the NFL is worried about is overtime taking too long. If we really wanted overtime to be quick and even quicker, they have the 10-minute clocks that we have now. Okay? We have we just start the team. Each team's going to get a possession like we said. All right. Every possession is going to start from the opposing team's 10-yard line. Okay? So, if the first coach wants to be lame and gets 5 yards in 3 plays, and then it's like, okay, we're going to take 3 from the 5-yard line and go to a second OT to see if we can hold the second team, or however this plays out, okay? And if you score your touchdown, you're still going to get your 1 point or 2 point attempt. I think that even if you got to like the third overtime, I think it would be like to the point where even though 3 OTs wouldn't take that long, because it would be at most 3 sets of downs for one team and 3 sets of downs for another team, then I think that would already be to the point where one coach would get frustrated enough, unless it was like a playoff game, but playoff games would be completely different. But a regular season game, if you got to a third overtime and it was like one coach settled for 3 and you had 4th and goal still from the 10-yard line, I think you could see a coach go for that. Like one team's up 3 and the other team's down 3, they could still go for it and just say, hey, if we win here, we win. If we lose, we lose.
Yes, I just really want it to happen because of the possibilities for so many more scorigamis of some 77, 76 games
Yes.
to take place.
Yes, that would be fun. Also, I don't think most people enjoy games ending on missed field goals. And if you have kickers kicking from the 10-yard line and in the entire time from OT, that leaves very little chance of a missed field goal ending a game, which is a nice thing.
Yes, the kicker will not be blamed for the loss. The coach will be blamed for the loss for deciding to kick the field goal.
Exactly. Like, well, I mean, that along with the fact that it is harder to miss the closer you are, especially. Yes. So I completely agree with you. Overtimes should be changed because the way it's formatted is just not. I mean, like, come on, we had like what was it? 2 years ago and then 3 years ago. We had 2 years ago AFC title game. Patriots receive the ball, walk down the field, score a touchdown, and it's like it's one of the best offenses on the opposite side of the field in the Kansas City Chiefs in that AFC Championship game that didn't even get a chance to possess the ball. And then we had the Super Bowl where the Patriots made the comeback. Both of these are playoff games. I could take instances of regular season games where people get the opening kickoff and then score a touchdown off of it, and it's like, okay, game's over, and it's like, well, that was stupid. But yeah, also the Super Bowl where it was like the Patriots come back and win because they received the kickoff in overtime. They did receive that kickoff, correct? I'm remembering that right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they did. Wasn't 100%, but like 95% sure that they received that kickoff in overtime of that Super Bowl. And that Falcons offense, even though it wasn't moving the ball at the end of the game, it was kind of getting away from what they were good at. If they knew they had to score a touchdown to respond to the Patriots, I think that game would have been a lot more interesting than just, oh, toss right, James White's in, Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
That would have been way more exciting. Yeah, I mean, anything to make the game more interesting. Make the game more interesting or make the game more balanced. Those are all the bases of my rule changes. And I have one more. That was your last one, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know that point in the game when something happens on the field and the whole stadium is looking up at the scoreboard like, did that count? And
yes.
And the offense is running up the field like, snap the ball. Everybody knows why that is happening. Okay, right? Is there anyone in the stadium who knows anything about football that isn't like, I don't know why this is happening? It's so that they can get the playoffs so that it can't be reviewed, right?
Yes.
Why is there not one more person paid as a referee who is in one of the booths upstairs looking at these things all the time and saying, buzz down immediately and saying, yeah, you guys need to review that. Because right now, I'm pretty sure that notice comes from New York. And if a ball is like completed up the sideline, okay, and it's like tiptoe catch, we don't know if he was in or not. The ref called him inbounds. The offense is sprinting up the field, trying to get the snap off. What is the thing that's stopping the refs is supposed to be, or stopping the game is supposed to be like a buzz in from New York City that the game needs to be stopped so that they can review it. If they're, I know our internet's good nowadays, but if this game is happening on the West Coast, the offense can get the snap off in like 20 seconds. And if you catch New York or whatever these people are, which we're going to call them New York because that's what everybody refers to them as when we're watching or listening to a game, why are they the ones in charge of calling down to make sure a review occurs? Because that needs to be in the stadium, because just in the Bills-Colts wildcard game alone, not worried about who is actually playing in the game, just what was happening in the game. That happened so many times in that game, like 3 or 4 times it felt like in that game alone, one of the teams was sprinting up to the ball trying to get a snap off because they were trying to get it off before the play could be reviewed. And it was just like, this is ridiculous. Why is this happening on such a grand, a grand stage? I was going to say a grand scale, but like the NFL is such a large product and has so much money. Why is something that they're putting out that is supposed to be like the highest quality of a product getting like screwed with in such an obvious way? They need to have somebody in the stadium on site so that there's no time delay in any sort of connections they have. It's just they look at the replay, say that is close, and immediately tell the ref 10 seconds after the play is over, not a minute later when the play has already been ran and a coach has had to call a timeout to get New York to initiate a review. 10 seconds after the play is over, somebody should be able to buzz down and say, yeah, that one needs to be looked at a second time because that's too close to call right away.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous that, especially with how advanced technology is now and how the NFL has seen leagues like the XFL where they just have so many people up in skybox just calling down on the field. The XFL, people were saying that the XFL was really high.
Yeah, their review system was better.
Yeah, they're saying, well, they were saying that it was high paced. There were some XFL games where it took a while because they were just like that play needs to be reviewed, and I'm going to call down there right now because it's ridiculous that there's no way that this is just gonna get off with them snap. I don't think there's a single time where they ran up the line quick and snapped the ball in the XFL to get away with the play.
There shouldn't be. It's a stupid thing. It's a very dumb thing. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. Well, that leaves us for our rule changes. You didn't come up with anything else on the fly, did you? I didn't. I'm sure there's tons of things. There's tons of things that you could say change the rules about, but those were just the ones that popped into my head today while I was brainstorming.
Yes.
All right, new coaching rankings. So, all the new head coaches. I didn't
Do you want to start at 7 and work our way to 1?
Yes, I want you to say your 7, discuss who they are, why you think they're 7, and then I'll say my 7, discuss them. So we won't talk about the same people at the same time unless they land at the same spot. But yeah, that's basically how I want to do it. Also, 7 of them, correct? I have 7, right? There's not an 8th one that I forgot. Okay, I just looked at a list, and for some reason earlier, I was like, I swear I thought there were 8 new head coaches, and then I could only find 7, and I was like going crazy. I was like, is there an 8th one that I can't remember? But good. I'm glad there's 7 because, yeah, just feels right.
Yes.
Uh,
Uh,
all right. Yeah, yeah, you can go first. You can name your number 7, and then I'll say mine.
my number 7 is David Culley. Do you want me to explain why, or do you want to
Yeah,
say
keep
who
going.
you're? All right. Uh, he's going to the Texans. I feel like I would have put whoever went to the Texans at 7, just because they're going into such a terrible situation. But it's David Culley, and I looked at his career history as a coach. He's never in any level of football been a head coach before. He's only been a coordinator at, I believe it was Texas El Paso, was the only time he was an offensive coordinator anywhere. And that I think was in the 80s.
The
So,
80s, really?
yes.
Oh, geez. Okay.
He-
Let me tell you this quick. I tried to have a recency bias with this and say that recent success was more important than old success, so I didn't look that far back for most of my coaches. But yeah, keep going. I'm interested to hear what else you have to say.
uh he is a part of the Andy Reid coaching tree, so I guess that's a plus, but Andy Reid got rid of him and then he went to the Bills for 2 seasons to he was the quarterback coach for Tyrod his last year in Buffalo, and then he was there for Josh Allen's first year, and then they fired him.
Yeah.
Then he went to Baltimore and became the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. And why? Baltimore doesn't even throw the ball that well, or basically at all some games. So why do you even need a coordinator dedicated straight to the pass? And then the Texans just look at him and go, the team that runs the ball 90% of the time. Let's bring in their pass game coordinator.
Uh, okay. This is gonna be really simple. Um, you actually noted on one thing that I have to tell you, I did not even consider in the coach rankings because I'm purely thinking about them from their perspective, how I think they as a person are as a coach. So I'm ranking these guys in order of how good of coaches I think they are. That doesn't mean that I think they'll have success this year because um there's guys that I have ranked higher than other guys that probably won't do as well because the roster isn't as good. But this is just in terms of how good I think they will each be as coaches themselves. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think David Culley's the worst coach out of all of these guys. Yeah, so I mean, like I said though, I'm looking at recency stuff. So 2017, I mean, this is the first like point that I was really looking at for David Culley because like you said, he was on that Chiefs staff and it was just like okay, he's kind of had he had an extended period with the Chiefs staff before he came to the Bills and it was just like I don't know how much of an impact he really could have even played there because of what was happening with Andy Reid and stuff and offensive court. Like I don't think he had much of an impact there. So kind of just write that off. Sorry. But then 2017 comes to be the Bills quarterbacks coach. And guess what? The Bills in 2017 had the Nathan Peterman extravaganza. So, I mean, if you want to count that as good quarterback coaching, all right, to you. And then I think the Bills basically lost a playoff game to the Jaguars because of bad quarterback play. So, all right, there we go. Another good thing. Then 2018 was Josh Allen's rookie year. And that's basically what we're gonna talk about in terms of how David Culley did because he was the quarterbacks coach for the Bills, and that season was basically the only season that Josh Allen was basically more well known for his legs than his arms. His legs are obviously still a huge part of his game now, but I think that first year was basically all about his legs. Really, I don't remember seeing much of anything about how talented Josh Allen was throwing the football in his rookie year. And that's the part of David Culley David Culley was supposed to help him with that, so that didn't work very well. And then 2019-2020, he becomes the Ravens QB coach and passing coordinator. So the team that or sorry, he's not he was the quarterbacks coach for the Bills this is where it becomes even funnier, because if he was the quarterback's coach for the Ravens, it would have been a good thing, because that meant that he was Lamar Jackson's quarterback's coach on his MVP season. He was not. He was the wide receivers coach at the time. And he's the wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator. Over the 2019 and 2020 season, we know that the things the Ravens were known for was both seasons just extremely well, a great game plan in running the football just every week. They ran the ball extremely effectively, basically every week of both seasons. And then, what was the part of he's the passing game coordinator and the receivers coach? The only sad issue is that really they probably had one of the worst receiving units in the league, and the guy who was the best target those 2 seasons for the Ravens in terms of catching the football was the tight end Mark Andrews. So it wasn't even a guy that David Culley was coaching. So I mean, realistically, just based off every single thing with David Culley in like the past 4 years and what he has done, this hire does not make any sense to me why the Texans would want him and why he would get the job. But he did get the job, and I just think he's the worst hire at all of them. I don't know. I don't get it. And I don't think you get it either. Does it make any sense?
It does. I don't think anyone gets it. It just seems like something that the Texans did of, well, Deshaun wants Eric Bieniemy, so let's just get another guy that was part of the Andy Reid coaching tree and is an offensive-minded coach. Okay, so who are we going to get? There are some other guys that got hired this offseason that coached along with Andy Reid. Nick Sirianni's one of them. And they just brought in David Culley because they waited way too long.
Yeah. But I mean, even then, I don't know what Eric Bieniemy's resume looks like. But I mean, just come on. Like, how can this guy's resume that we just talked about with like what positions he is coaching and the specific guys on the team that he's supposed to be helping, just lacking so much in all of those recent years? Like, every part of it is so bad, and yet you look at him and say, he's a better hire than Eric Bieniemy. I mean, it's only comparing him to one guy, but it just doesn't make any sense. There's so many other guys that would have been better hires than him. It doesn't make any sense at all.
It's still something that baffles me.
Okay, you want me to go to my number 6 first, or your number 6 first?
We can alternate. You go first.
Okay. My number 6 may be surprising, but I don't really know. Yeah, I'm guessing it is, because I don't know how like the standard media would have these guys ranked, because I really didn't care what the standard media would have these guys ranked. I'm just basing it off of my own opinion and based off the stats, not necessarily the stats because they're coaches, but basically how their teams performed in what they did for them. So number 6 on my list is Brandon Staley. And he, once again, just looking at him in terms of recent years. Okay, so he joined the Chicago Bears in 2017 as an outside linebackers coach. And realistically, from the 2016 into the 2017 and 2018 season, I can't see, like, within how the Bears outside linebackers played, and actually one of the keys here is that in that time period, they gained Khalil Mack. So he had Khalil Mack added to his defense from where Khalil Mack was before. So I wasn't comparing the same Chicago Bears to the new Chicago Bears. I was like, okay, I looked back. Khalil Mack was the key piece they added. What was Khalil Mack doing in Oakland before he came to Chicago? And actually, the funny thing was, the guys who remained on the team in Chicago, and then Khalil Mack too, basically all of their stats overall, not every single statistic, because Khalil Mack was actually one of the ones that didn't work, because his sack numbers went up, but almost every other stat for every other player and every other stat for Khalil Mack himself went down. So like QB hits and pressures for Mack also both went down, which were not good, and which is not good. And it's just like, okay, that's the first example. But then he goes to the Denver Broncos, and he's the outside linebackers coach there again, in 2019. And basically the same thing happens there. From the way the Denver Broncos were playing in 2018 into 2019, their play basically declined. Like, they weren't playing as well as they were in 2018. Then he goes to the LA Rams. And the Rams already had a good defense, but he becomes the defensive coordinator for the LA Rams. And it's like, okay, this guy's supposed to be good, this defense is supposed to be good. And they were good under him, but there was no noticeable difference from what they did before in terms of numbers. Some of the numbers went down, some of the numbers went up. So do I really think that he is a key piece to anything in terms of what's going on for any of these teams? It doesn't seem like the difference he's making is big enough to like, I just saying I wouldn't hire him, basically. I would not hire him based off this resume I see. And the other thing is that I didn't mention yet because David Culley was at the bottom. David Culley is an offensive coach. I would value an offensive head coach over a defensive head coach if I thought they were both equally matched in everything, and one of them was an offensive coach and one of them was a defensive coach. I would pick the offensive coach way more than the defensive coach, because I think, as we've kind of alluded to during this entire podcast, is that we both think that the offensive side of the ball is the side of the ball that's probably more important. I mean, especially with how we've talked about the rules. And that is one of the reasons also that Brandon Staley is lower, because I don't think his resume is good, and he's a defensive coach, and it just doesn't look that good. But at least he did have some success with the Rams, which keeps him above where David Culley is, because David Culley just like completely has not done anything to show like the players he is supposed to be helping, like, improving their play at all. He hasn't done that at all. So Brandon Staley's still above him. And that's why Brandon Staley's 6.
For me, I view I think it's very close in the top 6-ish area. The gap from 6 to 7 is huge.
Yeah.
For me.
No, yes.
The way
yes,
I view it.
Yes. Yes.
Like, all 6 of these guys left, I can see being head coaches in the NFL. David Culley, I can't. For number 6 for me, I have Nick Sirianni, the local boy from Jamestown, New York, by the way.
I didn't know that.
The one thing is, because I agree with you, I value offensive-minded head coaches a lot more than I'd value defensive-minded head coaches, which is really weird to say because we're both big fans of a team that is very defensive-minded, but the defense isn't good, and Sean McDermott. But Nick Sirianni, there's one thing that really, really puts me off on Nick Sirianni. The Eagles brought him in to be a play-calling head coach. I read the press releases up to this because I wanted to read some more about these coaches. They brought him in to be a play-calling head coach. Nick Sirianni, not once in his life, has ever called plays.
It's fun. It's interesting.
Yeah, with the Colts, Frank Reich called the plays. He was never a coordinator anywhere else. He was with the Chiefs when Todd Haley was there. But like you, I'm going to keep it recent. He was the receivers coach for the Chargers from 2016 to 2017. I don't really know. Like, you got Keenan Allen. And Phil Rivers was good in those seasons. Then he goes to the Colts. Frank Reich's calling the plays. It seems like in everything that I saw about the players love him. Even the defensive players love him, which is great because you want that in a head coach. You want a guy that the players or want to rally around and play for, which is something huge, and I valued that. But his resume and what he was brought in to do, having no experience doing it, scares me.
All right. Well, like you said, you think these guys are all really close in the top six, and I don't agree
Yes.
with you. I don't agree with you. I'll tell you that. I did agree with you, like early in your comment because you said there's a huge gap between 7 and 6, and that's when I said yes, I agree with you because I think there's a huge gap between 7 and 6, but I actually also think that there's a gap between 4 and 3.
Mm,
I think there's another gap, and already judging by who you just said, you're gonna really disagree with me.
okay. I don't hate Nick Sirianni.
Oh,
I
I know.
don't.
I know. Based off what you said, with how you said that all of the top 6 guys are really close for you, but no, yeah, no. Our lists are going to be different. Okay,
It is
we're
just
alternating.
very
We're
weird.
alternating though. So I went first in 6, so you go first in 5.
Number 5, I got the kneecap muncher himself, Dan Campbell.
Okay.
Uh, former player, he did play for the Detroit Lions from 2006 to 2008. This dude seems like a maniac. He uh
Yes.
he has said that he is going to designate all of the play calling to his coordinators. He is not going to try to act like he knows what plays to call in the right situations, which is amazing. Having a head coach that is that humble and knows exactly, like, hey man, I was not brought in here to call plays. I was brought in here to change a culture and to whoop some guys into shape. Perfect. Love it. Uh
So basically,
Demario Davis.
you basically just said the strength and conditioning coach is also the head coach.
Yes, this guy in his first day in the facilities, he had the plaque changed outside of the door from Dan Campbell, head coach, and then underneath the head coach, the dude. So that's just great.
I didn't hear that story. That's good.
Demario Davis said in an interview that when Sean Payton couldn't come and give, like meet with the team, give meetings and all that because of COVID, there were some problems. Demario Davis said Dan Campbell would fire those guys up to go out there and practice, which is so weird because I think of New Orleans as such an older team that this guy's coming out here and firing them up to go practice. He's getting Drew Brees, who's like a year younger than him, pumped to go out there and practice. Which is great. I don't. I just don't know how it's gonna go. Detroit baffles me with some of the guys they bring in, and he's a great character guy. I just don't know how well that's gonna go. It seems like he's a Joe Judge esque type of guy, but I will mention he's the only guy on this list that has NFL head coaching experience. So I am excited to see him play. Or not to see him play. He might play.
He may
seems
play.
he might pull a Marshawn in the fan controlled football league and go up there and get some pads and start playing.
It's like,
But
you guys need to catch the ball.
let me show you how to do it. TJ, give me your jersey.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
I am very excited to see where he will go and how he will coach.
I'm telling you, I'm excited to watch some Detroit Lions football too. All right, you good?
Yes,
All right.
I am good.
My number 5 is Arthur Smith, the Falcons coach. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to read exactly what I have written here. Over years, he had the best players in the offense with him in the tight end room because he was the tight ends coach in Tennessee. He had Jared Cook initially, and then Delaney Walker after that. And if you look at the roster that the Titans had together over the years, he was the tight ends coach, which was like 5 years straight. He had the best player on the offense in his coaching room. Okay, So that
Okay.
basically made the offense run through him. Delaney Walker leaves. He's still the tight end coach at this point. For one more year, he'll be the tight ends coach. The tight ends on the Titans do nothing that year. Absolutely nothing. Okay? Then,
Mm-hmm.
these last 2 seasons, he becomes the offensive coordinator for the past 2 seasons. Just look at the skill positions for this team. At the quarterback position, at the running back position, and at the wide receiver position. It may be in different terms for all of them, but A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill are all arguably top 5 players at their position. And on top of that, they're all in the age range of like being in their prime. Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, all in like their prime years. Tannehill's older than the other two, but Tannehill's a quarterback, so that is prime age range for a quarterback. Henry, like 3 years into the league, now he's at like 3, 4, and 5, but 3 and 4 for him. I think actually maybe 4 and 5 for him, and then this year he'll be his 6th or his 5th. Either way, 3, 4, or 5 for Derrick Henry's rushing yards. And then honestly, receivers, when they're the youngest, they get the most. They do their best. Like sometimes they get better with age. Like you just think about Randy Moss. When were his best years? Really early in his career. That's A.J. Brown right now. I mean, he's got great weapons there, and the offense obviously produced. But I mean, they were a little inconsistent at times, and that could have been attributed to the game plan. Along with that, it's just the production that was there. I think you could contribute a lot just to the straight talent that was on the team and not in regards to the play calling, or the coaching. So not trying to take too much away from him because he's not all the way at the bottom of the list, but I don't like him as much either. I don't think that he's that great of a coach.
Okay.
I could be all right, but I don't love him because I'm not seeing what other people may be seeing. And I get number 4 first, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So, number 4 for me now is Dan Campbell. Okay? So, my time with him basically starts in New Orleans because he was in New Orleans for a pretty solid period of time. He's tight ends coach and assistant head coach. Assistant head coach is an interesting title to have because it almost is like, how do I judge that? And it's almost based off team success. And if it's based off team success, then I would say he was a pretty successful coach. Along with that, the tight ends kind of were bad when he first got there, but then over time, the longer he was there, it seemed like they actually started to produce more and more. So if he's making the players better slowly over time, that's a good thing. And then obviously he's going to be with Sean Payton over that period of time, which means that he's going to have input from one of the best offensive minds we've had in football recently. So that's something that you want to see. And he in his interim head coaching time with Miami, he went 5-7 with a very bad Dolphins team. And in those 12 games, they played against some really good opponents. And I think that if you look back and see what teams they went 5-7 against, you probably would have said they should have went more like 3-9, 2-10 with what talent was on their roster. So I say props to him. Good job on that. And I kind of like what he's got going for him. I mean, just with the connection to Peyton, the fact that his positions that he was covering actually improved over time, and then his head coaching experience already make him a little bit higher than some of those other guys. And then once again, like I said before, after him is where I think there's a little bit of a tier gap up to the top 3 guys.
All right. Number 4 for me is Urban Meyer. I have absolutely no idea how he's going to do in the NFL. He's only ever coached in college, uh, but he's has the most head coaching experience out of anyone. But it's all been with kids, or it's been with college guys.
No,
Kids
they're
compared,
they're kids.
they're it,
They're kids. We are kids. They are kids as well.
yes, and it just scares me because I when I think of college coaches going to the NFL, I think of that one guy that coached Atlanta and then he went to coach in Arkansas and like got into a motorcycle accident. What's his name?
Petrino?
Yeah, I think of Bobby Petrino. I don't know how Urban Meyer seems way more laid back than Bobby Petrino, but it's just such a jump from having all this power over these kids to then going and having to work with grown men that you have to view as your equal and actually work with and not order. That's my reserve for Urban Meyer, but he wins, so you can't really knock him on that. The dude just wins games. Now at Ohio State, you can recruit a lot of guys and get basically whoever doesn't go to Bama or any school in the SEC. I am very reserved to see what happens. Excited because him and Trevor Lawrence may be fun, but I really have no idea
You're gonna hate me, okay?
why.
Because I said, I said that I only looked at recent history for these coaches because I thought that was a little more on the nose with what you
Hmm.
were doing. Since Urban Meyer has only been a head coach, when I talk about him, I will talk about all of his time as a head coach. Just letting you know.
Okay. I yeah, I when I think of Urban Meyer, I think of winning in Florida, winning at Ohio State, and he wins. Can't hate a guy that wins. He's also the third too, so he's got that going for him as well. That's also in my notes.
That is lucky.
Made, made sure to put that down. But I he's I don't really know what to say. I felt like I had to put him right at this spot just because that's how I feel about him, right in the middle. I don't know if he's gonna do really well. Don't know if he's gonna uh crap the bed. Right in the middle.
Alrighty. You got number 3 first as well.
Uh Number three, I got Brandon Staley. I think Brandon Staley was a great head coach hire. He and this is why. I read an article where Vic Fangio, all that Vic Fangio did was praise Brandon Staley on being the smartest defensive mind he has ever worked with. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. Well, let me look into Brandon Staley's past a little bit. Let me see what this kid's done. This guy, I shouldn't say kid. He's 38 though, so kid in the head coaching realm. He was a starting quarterback for Dayton from 2003 to 2004, which blows my mind because he's only ever had defensive coaching jobs.
Yeah,
And
that's how he knows how to analyze the defense so well.
that's exactly what I thought. And I love it. I love it. I think no. I don't like bringing out this comparison because everyone compares everyone to this man. And you know, it is what it is. But Brandon Staley has the potential to be the defensive Sean McVay. I want that to happen. I want there to be a good young defensive minded head coach
Okay,
that can just come in and dominate.
I have to stop you there. Okay. Sean McVay, along with Kyle Shanahan, even though they decided to go with Sean McVay because the first season that they were both doing it at the same time, Sean McVay won more games than Kyle Shanahan. Those two guys created a new West Coast offensive zone run, play action scheme that no one had ran that consistently or that effectively ever. And that scheme can be implemented as a coordinator. The same thing could be said as a defensive coordinator. You could implement a new scheme to change your team's game. And especially if your head coach is an offensive coordinator, as Sean McVay is. Therefore, what did Brandon Staley do last season, since he was the head of the defense in LA, that makes you say that he is going to be the Sean McVay of defense? Because I didn't see it.
First year as a coordinator, number one defense in the NFL. You could say this because of Aaron Donald. You and I both think Aaron Donald's very overrated.
No, I'm asking you about the scheme. I'm not asking you about where the defense.
I did not watch a lot of Rams games. I did not watch a lot of Rams tape. I only say that because Vic Fangio, he suggested it. He didn't say that word for word. He very much suggested it. Now, I understand where the reserve may come from. You got Justin Herbert. You got a young quarterback. Why are you bringing a defensive-minded head coach?
Yeah.
Everyone thought they were going to bring in Brian Dable. They needed someone that's offensive-minded. Wrong, I say. You need someone that knows what they're... You need a head coach that knows what they're capable of and knows when they need help. Brandon Staley will know when he needs help, and he will bring in someone that can handle that, where he can just say, I'm not even going to worry about the offense. I trust this guy to handle the offense for me because I know my role. I know what I'm good at. So I'll work with Joey Bosa and Kenneth Murray and Melvin Ingram and Derwin James. I'll work with those guys. You handle Herbert and make him into a stud because that's what Sean McDermott did. So it's saying that this guy can't.
I will say that I like him a little more now that you told me the fact that he was a quarterback. Because that does mean that there is at least some more probably meat on the bone towards the offensive side of the ball than I was giving him credit for in my ranking, and it probably would bump him up my list a little more. But your Sean McVay argument is not the reason that I am bumping him up my list at all. I don't agree with that one bit, even if that's what Vic Fangio said.
Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. I love the hire. I love the hire at first because we get to keep Brian Dable in Buffalo. But the more and more I looked into it, it just seems like such a good fit. It seems like such a good fit.
And he was what number for you?
3.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. I'm at number 3 now?
Yes.
This is my tier gap. However, like I said, the number 3 and number 2 guys were where I was really trying to figure out where they were really like them next to each other. I was trying to figure out which one would I rank higher than the other. And I was sitting here for a while thinking about that. And eventually I was just like, okay, if I was hiring a head coach for my team, which one of these guys would I hire over the other? And my number 3 guy is Robert Saleh. And
okay.
Robert Saleh, like I said, this is the tier gap. So this is where I think 7 was the atrocious hire. 4 through 6 were the I don't really know hires. And 3 to 1 here is where I think these guys could all be good coaches, or I think that they are good coaches. I mean, realistically, you never know how it's going to turn out for anybody, because even if they're good coaches, something else could go wrong, like not even related to them. So, I mean, you see guys get fired all the time before they've even really had a chance. I mean, I think Freddie Kitchens was an awful coach, but we only got 1 season of him, so do we really know? We can't say for sure. What do you think? You think Freddie Kitchens? Would you take a shot on Freddie Kitchens one more season?
Everyone deserves a second chance.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
mean,
wanted to
Jason
say.
Garrett almost got hired this offseason, so
Yeah, and he only got like 20 chances. All right, so I mean, yes, the Salah's resume is absolutely insane. He takes the 2011 Seahawks defense, or sorry, really his first season was with the Seahawks in 2011, and then I don't have that one written down, but I think it was his first season was 2011 with the Seahawks, and he turns that defense into the Legion of Boom. Okay, then he goes to Jacksonville, and he turns that defense into Saxonville. Then he goes to the 49ers defense, and we know how that's been built up over the past 3 years. The the advancement he's made with all these defensive units is absolutely insane. And his energy on the sideline is almost unrivaled from any other coach. Um, and really, it's not even like an in-depth look at him just because his resume is so positive. It's like you don't have to dig that deep on this guy. He's a good coach, and the only thing that's holding him back behind the other two guys that I have on my list above him is the fact that he's a defensive coach instead of an offensive coach. And when you have a defensive coach, that means that you can lose your offensive coordinator at any point in time.
yeah, I get that.
So do I go to my number two? Right? I
Yes.
get number two
Yep.
first?
Yes, you get number 2 first.
Okay, just you guessing, which guy do you think is my number one?
Urban Meyer.
Okay. And who are the two people you have left?
Arthur Smith and Robert
Saleh?
Saleh.
Yeah, I think Saul is your number one.
Okay.
We'll find out. My number two is Nick Sirianni. Okay. So, he was with San Diego for a long time. And I think quarterbacks coach for San Diego, if I remember correctly. And basically, he's always gotten Phillip Rivers to play at Phillip Rivers levels, like 4,300 yards basically every year. And he's actually had a fairly good touchdown to interception ratio, even though those interceptions usually came at bad times. I can't necessarily put that on the quarterbacks coach for Phil Rivers forcing the ball up at bad times. And then he goes to the Colts O coordinator position the past 2 years, and really the Colts offense didn't even though he was working with Jacoby Brissett for the first year and then Phil Rivers the last year, didn't really look too shabby with Jacoby Brissett, and then the offense as a whole looked pretty good with Phil Rivers. And just from looking at, was he receivers coach for the Chargers for a point? Was it receivers and quarterbacks coach? Was it both of them?
For the Chargers,
Yes.
you said? Yes.
Yes. So the other point I wanted to make about the Chargers is that when he was a receivers coach, I think it's the first year he becomes a receivers coach is like the first year Keenan Allen goes off and like has a really good season. It's the first year that he becomes the receivers coach. So that's another reason I really like him. And it seems like he's probably got, even though in San Diego it's kind of like his title, I should be looking at this right now, but I'm just trying to read off my notes. Actually, if you could look this up for me to see what his titles were while he was in San Diego, I'm pretty sure they changed a few times. So I'm guessing he probably had a little more input on the offense than it actually necessarily lets on. What does it say?
His titles throughout his tenure in San Diego / LA were offensive quality control coach, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach.
Yeah, so he switched between like 3 different roles. So I bet he had a fairly decent amount of input under all of those, right? So I'm guessing he had more influence than it lets on just from the base title alone and then based in each season individually. He probably had a pretty decent say in what was happening with the offense. And those offenses were pretty successful, along with the fact that I said the Colts offense with Jacoby Brissett was still pretty successful. And the Colts offense was, I'd say, a lot more successful last season. Just judging from those things, all the offenses he's ever been a part of have basically ended up in the upper third of the league in in the offense he's been a part of. And he's never, but the one thing there in the fact that he's had these offenses that have ended up in the upper third, you look over that time period of like 2013 to 2020 with all the players he's coached, he's never really had any superstars on his offenses. And those offenses have always still had like pretty solid success. And then you look at the offenses that you always think are the best in the league, and they have a superstar. So if he can become an offensive head coach and be in charge of everything that's happening on the offense, considering the fact that he's been able to have so much success on the offensive side of the ball already, just with very generic talent, I think the Eagles made a good hire here for that reason alone, because I think their offense should have some solid success no matter what. But if the Eagles ever came into the possession of like a superstar offensive talent, I would be really interested to see what Sirianni can do for them in terms of that. That idea really excites me because he hasn't had the opportunity to work with one, but I really like him for that reason.
Yeah, like when I talked about him, I think he's going to be a good coach. I just am very discouraged because they brought him in for all the wrong reasons.
And yeah, that's the thing that sucks, is he could still suck because the Eagles are literally just about to be like, oh, you have to work with Carson Wentz, even though we know you like Jalen Hurts more. You have to work with Carson Wentz, and we're going to do everything we can to screw with your process and make your head coaching experience miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But like I said, I was looking at it in terms of who I would hire as a head coach, and I would hire Sirianni above every guy I've talked about already.
I understand that.
Your turn. Your last two. You get to do both of them in a row, so 2 and 1 for you.
No, you just went last, so you go first now. For the second one. For number 2.
I did number 2. That was my number 2.
Oh, that was your number 2?
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. Well, Arthur Smith is my number 2. You were right.
I knew it.
You
were right about mine too, though.
So. Arthur Smith's number 1. One thing that I didn't know about Arthur Smith that I absolutely love. He played guard at North Carolina from 2001 to 2005, which is awesome. So, I thought when I first looked at a picture of Arthur Smith, I just think, wow, this guy is on the edge of 50. Not even 40 yet. Looks very low energy, but he played collegiate guard. Whatever. I'm excited for Atlanta because he made the offense fun in Tennessee. He took Ryan Tannehill and actually made him a winner in Titans. Now you could say that that's all Derrick Henry. I don't want to say that. I want to say that Arthur Smith implemented some great blocking schemes because he's a former guard.
Can I jump
Carolina.
in?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna say the Ryan Tannehill effectiveness was not increased by what's his first name? I'm blanking on his first name. Arthur Smith. I'm not going to say that his talent was increased by Arthur Smith. I'm going to say Joe Philbin and Adam Gase hurt Ryan Tannehill's talent while he was in Miami, not the other way around.
I can understand. Arthur Smith gave Tannehill a situation where he could blossom.
Yes.
And that's what Matt Ryan needs if they decide to keep Matt Ryan. If they get a rookie quarterback, which I would not be against Falcons.
If Matt Ryan moves this offseason, that means that half the league is going to be changing quarterbacks this offseason.
I don't think I'd mind at all. That'd be amazing. Content.
Yeah, you're right.
it would. Arthur Smith needs, or not Arthur Smith. Matt Ryan needs Arthur Smith. He needs someone that can get him some quick passes. Someone that isn't gonna get him absolutely destroyed in the pocket. Gonna develop a run game behind him, and can scheme up some great play action shot plays. That the one when I think of Arthur Smith, this is the one play I think of against the Texans. Now, I understand it's against the Texans, and the Texans are terrible. Last season against the Texans, when the game came down to like the last 5 seconds, you know what game I'm talking about, close to the end of the season.
Yes.
And he drew up that beautiful shot play to A.J. Brown.
Oh, you mean the best receiver in the league?
Yes, I understand he's the best receiver in the league, but that play, the way I watched that play back, because that was the first thing that popped in my mind. The way that was drawn up and executed was fantastic. And if Arthur Smith can make 5 of those plays, 6 of those plays a game, I don't see a team losing. Now, I understand games are won and lost in 6 plays, but those plays just create momentum, opportunities to score. It's perfect. Arthur Smith will be great in Atlanta. I 100% think that. That's why he's at number 2. I mean, come on. And he also used to coach on the defense as well when he was with the football team back in 2007, 2008, and then even with the Titans at the start of his tenure there too, was a defensive coach, and now he's going to the offense, or went to the off. Now he went to the offense, and that only helps him.
Very interesting. Interesting argument. I'm not on the same page though.
Hey, that's why we make these lists.
Okay, tell me why Saleh's the best.
Now, you can't just talk about Robert Saleh and not also talk about Mikey LaFleur, his offensive coordinator that he decided to bring in, because those two seem like a package deal. They seem like a happily married couple. When Robert Saleh talks about Mikey LaFleur, he lights up, has a smile on his face.
Does he say Mikey?
He calls him Mikey LaFleur.
Oh my gosh.
He said, Mikey's like my little brother. I love Mikey. So I'm glad that he brought him with him to the Jets. And like you said, Robert Saleh is the most high-energy coach that there is. Now, Dan Campbell might be giving him a run for his money now, but Robert Saleh is actually going to be calling plays. So that gives him the edge over Dan Campbell in that category. And Robert Saleh, like you said, went to Seattle, made the Legion of Boom, went to Jacksonville, made Saxonville. Well, was part of Saxonville. He didn't make them. He was there, coached there, and then went to San Fran and developed one of the best defenses in the NFL. Now he's going to go to the Jets, who have some decent young talent on defense, and Quinnen Williams and Pierre Desir, right? He's still on the team, or did they cut him?
The only guy on that defense that I consider talented is Marcus May. So,
yeah. So
you can have Quinnen Williams though, but please no, I'm not putting Pierre Desir on that list either.
I think they cut Pierre Desir too. So
oh, okay. Well, don't worry, I wasn't gonna put Pierre Desir on the superstar list anytime soon.
To be honest with you, I was just thinking of guys that I could name on that team. But
team's so bad.
Robert Saleh, former college player, 4-year starter, great. Michael LaFleur, former college quarterback, converted to safety, so he knows both ends of the ball as well. I think that's the one thing that I love about coaches, Hayden. You've seen it in the last 3 for me. They know both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And Robert Saleh is doing exactly what I said Brandon Staley should do. Designate what you're not good at to someone that you trust and that you know is good at that job. So why not just get the brother of Matt LaFleur and basically your little brother Mikey, get him in there. Get him coaching up Sam Darnold or whoever you bring in. And he is going to be so much fun to watch, especially with that Jets team that just seemed like they are done. Like that Jets team they won games at the end of the season, but it was just so depressing to flip on the TV and see, oh, the Jets are losing. And those guys will come into the facility every day and want to play. And I don't know if you could say that about when they had Adam Gase as the head coach. So that's really what the Jets need right now. They just need a coach where the guys can say, I want to play for this guy. I do not want to let this guy down.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with you because your top three was him, Smith, and who was three?
Brandon Staley.
Yeah. So he's the only one I agree with you on in the top three. So I mean, yeah, I basically agree with everything you said there. I mean, like I said, my upper tier was the top three, and I like them all. So yeah. My last guy, Urban Meyer. Now, he's an offensive coach, so that gives him his edge over Robert Saleh. Then, the other guy in my top three, Nick Sirianni. The reason he has an edge over him is because he has had a ton of head coaching experience already. The thing that's going to be the argument for why so many people say we don't know if he can do it at the NFL level is not as you put it. It's not because of the fact that I'm wondering will he be able to speak to players in a different tone than a college coach would have to, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking to a 22-year-old college player and the average 25-year-old NFL player, speaking is really not going to be that different, okay? Okay, if you're talking to Tom Brady at 43 and an 18-year-old college kid, that's different. But about 90% of the time, the conversations are going to be pretty similar to how you would talk to a college kid versus an NFL player. But for the players that are different and are veterans and you know you have to speak to them differently, I think that's obvious enough to guys who have been around long enough that they need to do that. I don't think that's an issue at all. I think the real argument when you talk about moving from college to NFL is that, okay, you were only good because your recruiting made it so that your teams were already good and you didn't even have to barely coach. Well, I looked at how things went with him, okay? And this is where I say I looked back further than I did for anyone else because he was a head coach for so long, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He was first a head coach in 2001 for Bowling Green. All right. Now, to get your recruiting class to be juniors, that means it would have to be 3 seasons after you get there, correct? So, if you get there in 2001, then realistically the players you are recruiting will probably be like most of them. Some of them can start as freshmen and sophomores, but most of them you're not even going to get on the field like realistically until 2004, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the thing is that he took over the Bowling Green job in 2001, meaning he got his recruits in 2001, and then 2002 was his last season with Bowling Green. He recruited for Bowling Green for 1 season, basically. Okay? Yep. In 2000, the year before he was the coach at Bowling Green, they went 2-9. In 2002, once he was the head coach for a second season now and got 1 recruiting class, like I said, where probably most of those guys weren't even like up to par to even play yet, they went 9-3. Which means that I'm not looking at a guy who's recruiting well. I'm looking at a guy who's a good coach because he's actually getting the most out of his players. And now, if you look at this again, next, after Bowling Green, he leaves Bowling Green in 2002. And in 2003, he joins Utah. In 2002, Utah went 5-6. Once again, He gets 1 year to get settled, and then the second year he is at Utah, his team goes 12-0. Then he goes to Florida. In 2004, so he joins Florida in 2005. In 2004, before he joined, Florida went 7-5. He goes to Florida 2006, they go 13-1. Then 2008 and 2009, they also went 13-1. Okay? Those aren't as important because it doesn't really help my argument that much for sakes of him improving teams just from his coaching ability. But then they had a down year in 2010, and that's when he lost his job. They went 8-5. Okay? And that, like I said, that's when he lost his job. Even though that's really not a bad record. That could be for a variety of reasons, whatever. But it still gets the main idea across that he was getting the most out of these guys that were already coming to these schools. Okay? And the best example's here. Okay? He gets to Ohio State. In 2011, so he took a year off. He got fired from Florida after 2010, didn't coach in 2011, then he's hired at Ohio State in 2012. In 2011, before he gets to Ohio State, they go 6-7. The next year, he is hired. His first year at Ohio State, they go 12-0. His winning percentage at Ohio State is higher than 90% of games are won. He went 86-9 at Ohio State. And I think through the rest of the resume, it shows that it's not the recruiting classes that got him there. It's the actual coaching ability. And with that, that really excites me if I'm a Jaguars fan, because I think he's going to get the most out of every single guy on the team, even if right now they don't look like they're that talented. And it's not just because of his roster building ability in college. It's because he's actually a good coach.
Yeah, okay. I can understand that. I'm still not sold on him entirely. I don't think I'll ever be. I not ever be sold on him. I don't think I'll ever.
If he wins the next 6 Super Bowls, will you be sold on him?
No. Let me finish. I don't think I'll ever be sold on a coach that was all college and then is deciding to make the jump right to the NFL at head coach. I don't think I'll ever be sold on those guys immediately. If he comes out and wins games, I will stand corrected, and I will be very happy for the Jags.
Well, I think if you win 4 games with that roster, you should be proud.
Oh yes, yeah. If he wins 3 games with that roster, I will be very impressed.
Did they give him a long deal too? Did he get like a Gruden type deal to come in?
Yes, he got a 6-year deal.
6 years though. He didn't get he didn't quite get the 10 years. But...
He did not get the decade deal. No.
Oh boy. All right. Well, we didn't have anything else planned, did we?
No, we did not.
Did we plan an outro this time?
Nah, I think we could just cut it here though.
Okay.